Every time a doctor looks at a scan of a human brain, spine, or tumor without making a single incision, they are using something Raymond Damadian invented. He proposed it in 1969. The scientific community was skeptical. He built it anyway. In 1977, his machine, which he named Indomitable, produced the first full-body MRI scan of a living human being. He was not awarded the Nobel Prize for it. His machine runs in every major hospital on Earth. Raymond Vahan Damadian was born on March 16, 1936, in Forest Hills, Queens, New York. His parents, Vahan and Odette Damadian, were both Armenian Americans. He grew up in a household where excellence was expected, and ordinariness was not an option. As a boy, Damadian studied violin at the Juilliard School of Music on weekends while attending public school during the week. He was also a highly competitive tennis player, good enough for Junior Davis Cup competition. He was not good enough at violin to stay at Juilliard. At age 15, he won a Ford Foundation scholarship to the University of Wisconsin. He left the music behind. "It was okay," he later said. "I was no Itzhak Perlman." He graduated from Wisconsin with a degree in mathematics, then earned his medical degree from Albert Einstein College of Medicine in the Bronx in 1960. Postgraduate fellowships followed at Washington University in St. Louis and at Harvard University. He served in the Air Force. In 1967, he joined the faculty at SUNY Downstate Medical Center in Brooklyn. The personal experience that shaped everything came at Harvard. Damadian suffered excruciating abdominal pain. Doctors could find nothing wrong using X-rays or standard methods. Short of surgery, they had no way to look inside him. He decided that a better way must exist, and spent the rest of his career building it. At SUNY Downstate, Damadian began studying sodium and potassium in living cells using a nuclear magnetic resonance machine, NMR for short. NMR was a well-established technology in chemistry laboratories used to identify molecular structures. No one had seriously proposed using it to examine the inside of a living human body. In 1969, the insight arrived. Damadian discovered that cancerous tissue and healthy tissue emit different NMR signals, specifically different relaxation times. Cancer tissue had measurably longer relaxation times than normal tissue. He understood immediately what this meant. If you could measure these relaxation times across the body, you could detect cancer and other diseases without surgery, without radiation, without any incision at all. He proposed a magnetic resonance body scanner to the Human Research Council of New York City. The scientific community's reaction was largely skeptical. On March 19, 1971, Damadian published his findings in the journal Science. The paper, titled Tumor Detection by Nuclear Magnetic Resonance, proved that cancerous and healthy tissue could be distinguished by their NMR signals in living rats, and proposed a full-body scanner to apply this to human medicine. This paper was published 2 full years before Paul Lauterber's competing paper in Nature in 1973. Damadian filed his patent in 1972. It was granted in 1974, U.S. Patent Number 3789832. With the patent granted, Damadian set about building the machine. There was no blueprint, no precedent. He and his graduate students, Larry Minkoff and Michael Goldsmith, spent years constructing a human-sized NMR scanner from scratch, a 1.5-ton superconducting magnet large enough to hold a person, with a manually operated wooden platform to move the subject through the detection coil. In May 1977, Damadian was ready for the first test. He volunteered himself as the subject. He climbed into the machine. 45 minutes passed. They detected no signal at all. The problem was Damadian himself. He was physically too large for the detection coil. He could not fit inside his own machine. His graduate assistant, Larry Minkoff, was slimmer. On July 3, 1977, Minkoff underwent the scan instead. It took nearly 5 hours to produce a single image, a 106-point scan of Minkoff's chest. The result was rudimentary by modern standards, but it revealed his heart, his lungs, and his vertebrae. Damadian named the machine Indomitable. Today, the original Indomitable is at the Smithsonian Institution's National Museum of American History, alongside the Wright brothers' flyer and Edison's early phonographs. The first image it produced is among the most consequential in the history of medicine. In 1978, Damadian founded the Phonar Corporation, standing for Field-Focused Nuclear Magnetic Resonance, on Long Island. In 1980, Phonar introduced the world's first commercial MRI scanner. In 1981, it became the first MRI company to go public. As MRI became a billion-dollar industry, large corporations, including General Electric, built their own machines without licensing Damadian's pioneer patents. Phonar sued. After years of litigation, the U.S. Federal Circuit upheld a $128 million verdict against GE in 1997 for patent infringement. In 1986, the original Indomitable was placed on permanent exhibit at the Smithsonian Institution. In 1988, President Ronald Reagan presented Damadian with the National Medal of Technology. In 1989, he was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame, joining Thomas Edison, Orville and Wilbur Wright, and Henry Ford. In 2001, the Lemilson MIT program gave him its Lifetime Achievement Award, describing him as the man who invented the MRI scanner. And then came October 6, 2003. The Nobel Committee announced the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine would go to Paul Lauterbur, an American chemist, and Sir Peter Mansfield, a British physicist, for their contributions to the development of MRI imaging methods. The Nobel Prize can be shared by up to 3 recipients. The third spot went to no one. Raymond Damadian, who had proposed the scanner, published the foundational paper, obtained the pioneer patent, built the first machine, and produced the first human scan, was excluded. Damadian's response was unprecedented in the history of science. He took out full-page advertisements in the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Los Angeles Times, and one of the largest newspapers in Stockholm, all carrying the same headline: "The shameful wrong that must be righted." The scientific community was divided. Many MRI experts argued that Damadian's 1971 discovery of tissue relaxation differences was the conceptual foundation on which all MRI imaging rests, and that his exclusion was a serious error. Lauterbur himself had acknowledged in 1971 that Damadian's work had directly inspired his own research. Others argued that Lauterbur and Mansfield's gradient imaging techniques were the specific innovations being honored, and that Damadian's own imaging method had been abandoned as less efficient even by his own company Phonar, which adopted Lauterbur's approach. The Nobel Committee's deliberations are sealed until 2053. The full story may not be told in Damadian's lifetime. He died on August 3, 2022, at the age of 86. What is not in dispute is what the MRI scanner does. Before MRI, soft tissue diagnosis required surgery or accepted ignorance. X-rays showed bone clearly, but soft tissue poorly. The difference in X-ray absorption between tissue types is less than 4%. To examine the brain, spine, joints, or internal organs in detail, surgeons had to open the body. After MRI, a physician can see soft tissue with 10 to 30 times the contrast of X-ray, without radiation, without surgery, without risk to the patient. Today, more than 40 million MRI scans are performed in the United States every year. Globally, over 100 million annually. Roughly 90% of all MRI scans ever performed produce images that depend on the tissue relaxation differences that Damadian discovered in 1969. His science, regardless of the Nobel decision, underpins the entire field. 3 lessons from Raymond Damadian's story. First, the best inventions solve the inventor's own problem. Damadian's chronic pain, and the inability of existing medicine to diagnose it, directed the entire arc of his career. He built what he himself needed. The problems closest to us, that we understand most deeply from personal experience, are often where our most important contributions live. Second, cross-disciplinary thinking creates breakthroughs. NMR physicists had used their technology to study molecules in laboratories for decades. Damadian, a physician, looked at the same technology and saw a diagnostic tool. The MRI was born at the intersection of medicine, physics, and chemistry, built by someone trained in medicine who thought like a physicist. The most important innovations often happen at the borders between disciplines. Third, recognition and impact are different things. Damadian did not receive the Nobel Prize. He received the National Medal of Technology, the National Inventors Hall of Fame, and the Smithsonian Institution. More importantly, his machine runs in every major hospital on Earth and has been used to diagnose disease in hundreds of millions of people. Official recognition and actual impact do not always coincide. The impact is what lasts. He proposed a preposterous machine. He built it. He fought for it. He was denied the Nobel Prize for it. And his machine runs in every major hospital on Earth. Raymond Damadian died on August 3, 2022. His invention will outlast every argument about who deserved credit for it. Thank you for joining us for episode 15. Our next episode is Joan Gans Cooney, the woman who turned television into a classroom and brought Sesame Street to generations of children around the world. Until then, stay curious.